Hello and welcome to News Center. Car makers across the world will be driving with caution as they brace for 25% tariffs on all cars being shipped to the US. While making the announcement yesterday, Trump said that tariffs would take back money from foreign countries that have been taking their jobs and wealth. Reports suggest that the levy will be imposed on car parts as well. Charges on businesses importing vehicles will be imposed starting from the 3rd of April. So how big is the impact? The US imported $474 billion worth of automotive products in 2024. Mexico is the top supplier of cars to the US, followed by South Korea, Japan, Canada and Germany. The European Union and Canada have slammed US tariffs. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said that the bloc would continue to seek negotiated solutions while protecting its economic interests. Meanwhile, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney called the new tariff announcement a direct attack on Canadian workers. President Trump doubled down following the EU and Canada's reactions. In a post on Truth Social, President Trump said that larger levies would be imposed if the two work together to harm the US economically. Speaking at the Oval Office, Trump said he expects auto companies to relocate to the US and build new sites or expand existing ones.
For doing business in our country and taking our jobs, taking our wealth, taking a lot of things that they've been taking over the years. They've taken so much out of our country. What we're going to be doing is a 25% tariff on all cars that are not made in the United States. If they're made in the United States, there's absolutely no tariff. We start off with a 2.5% base, which is what we were at.
Right. India's automotive industry has not been immune to the US tariff announcement. Shares of Tata Motors, Samvardhana Motherson and Sona BLW declined in today's trade. Sudarshan Kumar, my colleague, is here with all the action in the automotive segment as a result of the tariff announcement.
Under pressure in today's trade on the back of announcement by US President, he has announced that he'll impose 25% tariffs on all the cars that are not made in the US. Also, as per reports, tariffs will be imposed on auto parts as well, and these tariffs will be effective April 2. Now, the first up on the list is Tata Motors, which will be impacted by this tariff, and the reason is US is one of the important markets for JLR, which forms nearly 30% of its total volumes. The most important part is JLR does not have production facility in the US, and most of the cars that JLR sells in the US are imported from other countries. And JLR forms nearly 70% of Tata Motors' consolidated revenue. And due to this tariff, its revenue can be impacted by more than 20%. Next up on the list is Samvardhana Motherson. This will not be impacted directly by tariffs, but it supplies auto parts to those automakers which export cars to the US. So here the impact can be seen in the range of 6 to 7%. Now, if US government decides to impose tariffs on auto parts, two major companies that can be impacted are Balkrishna Industries and Sona BLW. For Balkrishna Industries, 17% revenue comes from the US, and for Sona BLW, US contributes nearly 43% to its total revenue for the fiscal. Last in the list is, if US government goes ahead and imposes tariffs on bikes and trucks, then some of the companies which can be impacted in that list are first, Eicher Motors, for which US forms nearly 2 to 3% to total volumes of Royal Enfield. Second in the list is for Bharat Forge. 40% of standalone revenue comes from North America. And for Ramkrishna Forging, 26% revenue is contributed by North America. So these are some of the companies which might be impacted by the tariffs that are announced by US President Donald Trump.
All right, to take this forward, I'm now joined by Rajeev Chaba, CEO Emeritus, JSW MG Motor India, Renault India MD, Venkatram, Mamillapalle, and also on the show with us is Pankaj, Chadha, Chairman of the Engineering Export Promotion Council of India. Mr. Chaba, let me begin by asking you about the impact on India. Well, we don't really export any cars to the US at this juncture, but considering that this announcement would be not just for cars manufactured around the world, but also for the automotive parts and components, there will be a rattling of supply chains around the world. So do you feel that in the mid to near term, there will be an indirect impact on the Indian automotive industry?
Thanks, Parikshit. My view is right now, what Donald Trump is trying to do is to disrupt some of the supply chains. And that depends from country to country, whether it's disruption or destruction. India will get into this disruption category for sure, because automotive industry is a very complicated industry in terms of lots of linkages in supply chain globally. What does it mean is that it's no one country is producing all the components and all the child components. And right now, whatever we have seen on your screen, one analyst who was talking about the impact on the share pricing, it's all at the surface at this point of time. We need to get into the child components level, because what US government is talking right now is not only the tariff on the cars, but also tariff on the parts, but also they're studying what's the localization. A lot of imports happen from child parts, imports happen from US, and then a final component or assembly get made and again get re-exported or get exported to US. So the whole value addition concept would be seen. So I think it's too early. We need to see the details, but what will happen is in 3 to 6 months' time, in my opinion, people can start seeing method to this madness. Means what will happen is that, and the government of India also is trying to have reciprocal kind of an arrangement on tariffs and things like that. So still the clarity is not there, but it is forcing all the countries, including India, to look at our own policies. There's a huge opportunity for us to have a clean sheet approach right now and study this and insulate ourselves from this impact.
Right. Mr. Venkatram, at Renault, have you started analyzing the impact of this 25% tariff on the auto industry imports into US? And come the 2nd of April, it's quite possible that the average tariff rates that US imposes on India may be increased as well, because he's going to put reciprocal tariffs on all countries. So there may be tariffs over and above this as well. How are you bracing for the tariff impact? Do you see price increases in the auto industry?
First of all, good evening to all, but which is relating to the passenger car segment, at least from India, we don't have exports much to US, no doubts about it, not just Renault, but across industry. But the auto component industry is well established, even though the revenue-wise it's not big, but it is expected to go up drastically in future years. But with this tariff, I don't know how the balancing would happen between India and US, even though there are a lot of trade talks going on between both the countries. And it's necessary that we have to look at our country and our job creations, and we have to balance the tariff system between US and India for sure. Whether it is auto components or whether it is passenger cars or trucks or any other commodity which is related between US and India import exports. We got to look at it a very balanced approach, and I think government should look at more deeply, and we should not be at a loss, nor we should be bargaining for anything which is not beneficial for us. So that's what I would look at as, and we should take a very, very clear approach. And it's, as Mr. Rajeev Chaba said, it's a clean slate. It's an opportunity to rediscuss everything, which is well balanced for India and our job opportunities within the country.
All right. Mr. Chadha, at the EEPC, have you been able to quantify the setback that will be there to the automotive component industry? We're trying to be a supplier to the world. And for some companies like Bharat, like Sona Comstar, and also Motherson, Samvardhana Motherson, US is a major revenue generator. So have you been able to quantify the impact of these tariffs?
See, it's like this. As of now, the proclamation has not come out. He has signed it, but the detailing of it is not there. So we are unable to get to know what are the HS codes which are being affected by this tariff. He has given broad guidelines, but for us to get to know the actual impact, we need to see the HS codes and work out. But in a broader sense, India's export of auto components to the US is the largest market for India. It's $6.9 billion. Whether it's not that all of it will be get affected. Some part of it will be. As soon as the proclamation comes and the detailing comes, we will do an HS code-wise analysis of the export of India on these lines of items. And then we'll come to know a final number which has been impacted. But definitely there is an impact. The question is, on 12th of March, we had an impact of $5 billion for steel. And now we are now on this stage, we are going to have an impact on auto components. As far as auto is concerned, the supply is very little. It's minuscule. It's some CKD kits by Mahindra. So I would not be worried about the auto part, but the auto components part is definitely a cause to worry about.
Right. And Mr. Chadha, if I were to ask you about an overall assessment, looking at what he's done with China, Canada, Mexico, impose a tariff, a broad tariff range of 25% on all imports from these countries into the US. He's possibly going to do the same for India. He can't, on the 2nd of April, apply reciprocal tariffs on a product-to-product basis. There will be one broad tariff that he will announce for India as well. Any assessment of that has been done?
See, so as my co-panelist said, that India is hardly exporting finished goods, or some bikes and some CKD kits, to my knowledge, probably are happening. There will be some impact to those guys. But as an overall auto economy in India, there will be very minimal impact on the auto side, finished goods side. But on the parts side, we need to see. So yes, there will be some impact on the parts side, but frankly, I feel it's a great opportunity for our parts supplier and for the government, our bureaucrats, to find out, to make a really good offsetting here, and support the local industry for Make in India, and have a good approach to optimize tariffs and even non-tariffs barriers. So I think, frankly, it provides an opportunity to clean lots of things from our system.
Right. Mr. Chaba, the question that I also wanted to ask you, we have been seeing reports how the US, and Donald Trump has said this on record, it's impossible to sell cars in India because of very high duties. According to reports, US is seeking 0% duty, zero duties on cars, fully built cars being imported from the US into India. If that were to happen, how would that impact the Indian automotive industry?
I think our country has smart leaders, and we have to look at not only US as one country, but also we are going to do FTAs with maybe Europe or Britain, with Japan and Korea, and also we are trying to reestablish trading relations, better trading relations with China. So we need to look at our interests. And by the way, we are talking about FTA with many other countries, even Mexico and Brazil won't be ruled out. So I think we need to look at the approach, what's really good for India, and have a standard, as Venkat said, I think, a clean, straight, transparent approach which benefits India. It's not only America. I think we need to have an overall wholesome perspective to this.
Right. Mr. Venkatram, at Renault, how do you see this demand from the US that do not urge companies like Tesla, like Ford, to make in India, give them zero tariffs or give them very low duty so that they can import and sell? They have to continue making in America. How do you see this as a representative, as the MD of a company which has invested in setting up a local supply chain and in local manufacturing as well?
To be very frank, the policy which was initially it's a draft though, it's not going to be much bothering for us. And we also need to understand we are heavily localized in the country, and we are serving the Indian customer since last decade plus. And I don't think we are anyway scared with Tesla coming into India, because the segmentation and the approach, the way we conduct business is far, far different than what Tesla is currently doing across the world. So Indian market and Indian consumer are well aligned with the local players, and I'm sure that it will be a better bet for us to perform better than any new entrants who are going to come from anywhere else. And they are talking about EV. Currently, if you see the EV market in India is minuscule, and it will take some more years for it to develop. So it's not something a threat for us. Maybe it is an opportunity to learn, and they can be an experimental ground for us in the country to see how the EV will perform. So as such, just not Renault, but as an automotive industry in India, are not much of any worrisome aspect with respect to Tesla coming into India.
All right, we're going to take a short break, but I'll request all our guests to stay with us. We'll be right back with this discussion.
What happened in 2024 with the election of Donald Trump is that the world is not going left or right, but America is turning inward for the first time.
Is US exceptionalism ending? Do you see the US market topping out?
Donald Trump and his MAGA crowd are going to learn a very hard lesson in economics. When economics meet reality, economics is going to win. It's just, it's like when the Titanic hit the iceberg won. The European markets are all at lifetime highs. So there's something going on in Europe. There's a very old saying in Germany, which goes as follows, that a lot of Germans don't believe in God, but every German believes in the Bundesbank.
Are we in for a chaotic period in the near term in markets?
I think as Aldous Huxley described in his famous book, A Brave New World. I think that's the reason I said that the world has shifted on axis. So it requires us to have new hats, new thinking. I do not believe in particularly the wealth created through gold or through real estate or through any other asset class. Equities long-term always deliver a superior rate of return.
All right, welcome back to News Center. We're discussing the impact of US automotive tariffs on the Indian auto market and the component sector as well. Let me go across to Mr. Chadha, Mr. Pankaj Chadha of EEPC. Mr. Pankaj Chadha, let me ask you, how do you see the impact on India's exports? One thing that could happen as a result of Trump tariffs is that globally there could be an issue of overcapacity. So will that have an impact on India's exports also? And secondly, you may have been in touch with several OEMs in the component space as well. What do you think is the industry wish list when it comes to tariff reductions in the overall bilateral trade agreement that we are signing with the US?
See, as far as the export is concerned, well, we already have a hit of $5 billion on steel and steel products and aluminium. So definitely that is being impacted. But again, as I said, it's an impact for everybody. So we need to look at the fact that whether we can get a better bilateral deal done with US than the others can get it done. So if that happens, then what happens is we can get a part of their share. I mean, let's be an optimist. So possibly we can get a part of their share if we're looking at from the steel sector. In the hindsight of in the other side of the steel sector is that we are also worried about diversion of steel, which was from other countries, which was supposed to land into USA and which will be excess and which might land into India. So therefore, that is why if you see recently we have had a safeguard duty for imports of steel into India already, a provisional duty announced already, which is 12% to safeguard that section. Then we look at the auto component one, which has just got in, the auto component, which has just got in. This total, as I said, is 6.9 billion, but what would be impact would be depending on the HS boards which are there. Yes, there would be some impact on this, but I still have a feeling that this being a niche sector, auto components, it's not something that you can immediately replace X with Y or Y with Z. So I have a feeling that possibly the final customer for at least some time will have to bear the cost. And as I said, I'm the strong opinion that a tariff war is a zero-sum game. Eventually, the loser is the customer. So let's see. It's still too early to play. Yeah, the price will rise.
Absolutely. Right. Let me now go across to Mr. Venkatram. Mr. Venkatram, as a result of what's happened in Europe, because several of these car makers who could be badly impacted, and for European car makers, UK is a major market, such as for companies like Jaguar, Land Rover as well. Do you see, because of an impact, a major impact on European car makers in their domestic market due to Trump tariffs, there could be some sort of impact on India as well? And because of the flux in automotive markets and the automotive supply chains for the next 3 to 6 months, possibly because of tariff uncertainty, do you think people will hold on to investments and future capacity increase programs as well?
In my opinion, for passenger car OEMs, there will not be much of an impact. But definitely for auto components, the large auto component suppliers who are European in nature, like Bosch, for example, where they have a lot of integration. You have tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 suppliers who are getting parts out of Japan, US, elsewhere, and also exporting back. So there are very large technological parts which goes in and goes out into US. And these may be having a little bit of an impact, as everyone are stating that it is end consumer who is going to get this heat. And in my opinion, as India, we may not be getting much impacted, but definitely as Europe, our European Union car manufacturers and auto components may see the heat. But we need to wait for more details coming out of this tariff situation, because it's only a statement which has come out, not the details as yet. But once we have the details, probably we can analyze better.
Okay. Mr. Chaba, Mr. Rajeev Chaba, what would be the best case scenario in terms of a bilateral trade agreement, a win-win tariff rate for the automotive sector for OEMs? If we were to ask you for one tariff rate which is good, what would that be?
I think it's really difficult for me to say. I've not really thought through. And definitely 70% duty on the finished goods is high. On one hand, we need to reduce that. On the other hand, we need to take care of the local investments too, done not only by local players, but also multinational players in this country. So the answer is somewhere between 15% and 70%, and more towards 15, I guess.
Okay. And any non-tariff barriers that we need to focus on, Mr. Venkatram, which you feel that are important as well? And do you feel that we need to lower tariffs more on the auto sector, and what would be a good rate for you?
I don't think that I'm pro loading the rates to it, because we need to see the trade balance between both the countries. It's not that we can put up a number without looking at the trade balance. Today, if you see just the passenger car exports between both the countries, it's minuscule. And if you take the auto components, then we have to look at the trade balance, and then accordingly we need to calculate. So putting a number to it doesn't make much sense today without having the numbers in place and the detailed tariff script of what Mr. Trump is talking about.
Okay, we've run out of time, but thank you very much, Mr. Sanjay Chadha, Mr. Rajeev Chaba, and Mr. Venkatram Mamillapalle. With that, we come to the end of this special episode. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.